listening to the Hellhorse Show podcast, your source for unscripted conversations about the latest topics in the Mustang performance space, including our own projects, products, and news. Hosted by the founder of Hellhorse Performance himself, Jeff Gray. Now, let's get started.
Thank you for listening to the Hellhorse Performance podcast known as the Hellhorse Show. I'm Jeff Gray, the founder of Hellhorse Performance. This podcast is going to cover all sorts of topics. This first episode, we just wanted to talk about some top line items about what we're going to talk about in future episodes, what you can expect to hear about, how things are going around here, future projects, and then, of course, everybody's got questions on digital dashes and radio kits. I've got with me today Sam Reeves, who's a business partner of Hellhorse Performance. I'm going to turn it over to Sam here real quick. Why don't you just go ahead and tell us what you kind of do around here, Sam, what you've done in the past, your background with cars, things like that, because I know people are synonymous in hearing the name Sam Reeves on Mustang 6G and places like that, but I don't think they know a lot about you or even how we linked up.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. Essentially, I got into Mustangs in 2017 when I bought mine. I kind of bought mine on a whim, joined Mustang 6G, like everybody else, everyone you listening. I wanted to mod my car. So come January 2018, my buddy Sam says, hey, somebody's putting this digital cluster into 15 to 17. And I was like, what? So I went, did some research, found a couple guys on Mustang 6G who were talking about it. Bought the parts, got the parts, took like a month, and then installed them, spent hours upon hours in Forescan figuring out how to perfectly program it, get everything to work, and shout out to DB252 and P6CL on Mustang 6G. They helped me considerably get some of the basics done that they had spent time on. So after that, I love the thing. Still have it in my car, of course. It's great. Sam that told me about it originally said, hey, why don't you sell these? I know tons of people who are, looking at them, asking about them. So started selling them. At some point I saw this this company named Hellhorse was selling these things. I was like, who the heck is this guy? And, it wasn't really a big deal. We kind of were a little different and it was just going. And one day I get a message from Jeff Gray and I had no idea what he was talking about. And he just called me on Messenger and we had a conversation, and that's how we got in business together. Started doing the sync kits, and the rest is history, really. Here we are.
I do think that is one thing that is a big misconception around at least our customer base, is everybody thinks that I've known you for forever and a day and we just decided to start selling radio kits and dash kits and
right.
And that you were doing it on your own and this side and that. I don't think many people realize, unless they were buying dash kits from Hellhorse originally, that we were competing in a different space and I was just doing it on a different volume level. And it really made sense with the more people that wanted to get into the marketplace that we partner up on things like that. And what has it been, a year and a half or so that we've been linked up?
About a year and a half.
There's all sorts of other crazy shenanigans that we have going on or in the works and things like that. When it comes to dash kits and radios and everything. Yeah, it's been a great time, and it's crazy how busy and popular that system has gotten. It's always funny to have conversations with customers that don't understand how many of those things we actually sell in a week or a month and how popular they are. Actually, funny note, I wasn't going to talk about this, but side note, you'll get a good laugh out of this. I had a dealer up in Washington State call me yesterday or the day before, and they bought a car from auction that had the digital dash in it from us that somebody had removed the cluster, and the car came to them from auction with no cluster because somebody kept their cluster. So that'll be one of those solutions we get to work on this week as well. But on top of dashes and radios and things like that Sam and I deal with, Sam helps with some marketing efforts and things like that around here. He's even known to dabble in some of the support tickets you guys see, which is a new thing around the business, as well as the new support ticket system. So it's either you or myself that's responding to all of the tickets, just to put a name with who you're seeing on the tickets as you guys listen to this. But Sam, why don't you kind of cover some of the stuff that we have in the works, the 18 plus F-150 and up, 4 to 8 inch radio kits have kind of hit the ground running. We tested that last time you were here in Houston. That works great. We started offering that. I know we've got some 15 to 17 stuff we both been working on. I'll let you hit that as well. And then I give out a lot of information, but it'd be great to hear a roundabout answer about the GT350 Digital Dash. I know we've got a lot of GT350 customers that want to use the Digital Dash. And I'm always having to convey its exhaust, the FCIM, what that is, how it's going to work, what they can use, and where we stand, even on a side note, with GT500 upgrades into GTs and GT350s, not just necessarily the Digital Dash, but other things that we found that we can implement and make work. If you want to talk about that for a few minutes.
Let's just start with that. Let's start with the GT350 clusters. Man, I know you and I both are asked about that nearly daily, if not multiple times a day.
I probably have a spreadsheet with 200 or 300 email addresses from people that wanted it in the beginning when we were really holding out hope that the 2020 GT500 was going to solve that problem.
So just basically what I've done is we tried GT500 cluster, still couldn't get it to work fully. We've tried just a manual GT or EcoBoost cluster, can't get it to work fully, but there are options. The best option is delete your active exhaust. Let's be honest, you want to get rowdy anyway. Let's put something else on there. Hell, you could put the fancy Roush active exhaust if you really want active exhaust. But if you delete your active exhaust and then take a bezel or an FCIM, the radio control panel from a GT or EcoBoost or just a premium car or non-premium if you have a 4-inch radio, you put that in, you can keep your drive modes by having that drive mode switch that the GT has. So, because you replace your steering wheel switches. So the only other way to do it is do it with the GT500 cluster, but then you lose other things. So it's just the best way to do it is just delete your active exhaust and you only lose active exhaust. Because if you want to keep active exhaust, then you lose drive mode. So it's unfortunately you lose one or the other, and it's just a matter of picking which one you want to lose.
Right. And so people understand what we're talking about. When we're talking about changing your exhaust, when we're talking about going to a Roush active exhaust, you can go to the Roush active exhaust or go to a Corsa or Borla or Thermal R&D or AWE, normal catback found off of a normal GT Mustang. If you wanted, there's 100 options. But when we're talking about generalized cost, I know that's a big thing that comes up. A couple of different things. Cost comes up, and then what options outside of that am I giving up? And you can correct me if I'm wrong in this, but the biggest speedo you're going to be able to run is a bullet cluster at 180 mile an hour and 8K. Big misconception is that we can program these things to 9 or 10,000 on the tack and set the speedo as we want. But their best option would be a bullet cluster with a 180 speedo and the 8K tack. Go to like a Corsa Extreme or something exhaust, and then go to an FCIM. So we're talking about cost. I mean, I can tell you that a decent catback exhaust system is going to run you $1,300 to $2,000, depending on what you pick. What are they looking at cost-wise? We obviously know the Digital Dash started $1,885 with us, but what other additional costs, generally speaking, are they looking at? The cost of the FCIM? Do they need exhaust emulators to prevent the active exhaust from turning back on if they fully delete it, or what are they looking at?
Well, you don't really have to worry about much of the active exhaust. Just changing the cluster out, it just won't work, and you won't get any. There might be some. There's possible if you change the actual exhaust out, you might get some codes, but nothing's going to set a check engine light or anything, so that's not a worry. For the cluster itself, or the FCIM, for the FCIM. You can get one on eBay if you want. You can buy one through us. You can get a brand new one, though I will say the brand new ones are really expensive. Most of those people probably won't want the heat and cooled seat buttons if they have the Recaros, which seems like most GT350 owners do. So those are extremely expensive new. Unfortunately, we do have a couple, and people are always interested in them. So that would be really the extra big expense. If you wanted to keep drive modes, you would have to buy one of those FCIMs or find one on eBay or out of a wrecked car somewhere. And those are hard to find. I'm looking for them every day, and so are a lot of other people. So they just are hard to get.
A lot of people are definitely looking for those things, and it's a good turning point when we're talking about FCIMs and radio kits and things like that. Is I tell people on the daily when they call us that nobody's looking harder than we are, whether it's United Radio or AER, who I know we haven't had any dealings with, but most of them are coming from United Radio through Ford, or we're getting them completely refurbished in what I call grade A condition to where they look as new as possible, as if you went and looked at a used car on the dealership lot that looks brand new on the inside. When it comes to the GT350 Digital Dash, am I correct in assuming, and I should know this, we talk to people all the time, 180 mile speedometer is the only way to go. There is no revision in the GT500 cluster for manual. You and I have talked about that before. I guess for the listeners' education, in a non-geeky scientific way, what's the best way to explain to them why the GT500 clusters don't work and why we don't see an avenue that they will start working?
So just to get the geeky stuff out of there, to change the clusters between manual, auto, bullet to regular, it's a reflashing of a memory chip on the cluster itself. You don't do it with ForeScan. You can't do it with ForeScan. You don't do it with UCDS. You don't do it with IDS. You don't do it with any of that stuff. You have to actually reflash a memory chip. It's a little tiny 4K memory chip, and it's just a hex file that just tells it it has the as-built data in there, but it tells it what the cluster is, what car it's for. And so that aside, the GT500 clusters, we have, unlike the bullet clusters, I've tried 100 different ways, cannot get it to have a manual version of the GT500 cluster. With the bullet cluster, we went in there and looked around and made some guesses, and we were able to do the bullet cluster and auto as well as the manual, and they never released a bullet auto. But unfortunately, with the GT500, it seems Ford hasn't put away, or whoever really makes the software, I think it's Visteon, they make the hardware at least, have not put away to make a manual GT500 version. And so because of that, you have a couple major issues. Let me just point these out. One, not as major, the PRNDS or PRNDM always shows up, and the cluster won't actually turn off. It'll stay lit up with that PRNDM, and if you let the car sit for days at a time, it's going to kill your battery. But the real big issue is, let's say, transmission not in park, and it just go da-da-da, da-da-da constantly. And so that's something you don't want, and I don't think anybody would really do that trade-off just for that 220 speedo.
I think that's the other big misconception folks have about what we're doing around here too, is that we actually physically can go in and manipulate all of the information on the clusters. And I have to tell folks, per federal law and the felonies of modifying clusters and things like that, even the options we're playing with are not necessarily options, more in the sense they're almost a loophole. Would that be a good way of putting it to everybody that's listening to this or gives us a call or sends an email? It's more of a loophole, not us fully editing clusters.
Yeah, you could say that. I guess that's a fair assumption.
Okay. Well, on that note, let's talk. We're talking about FCIMs. Let's talk about the 4 to 8 inch conversions. We get a lot of questions on those. A lot of them are heated and cooled seat button options. What can I do with that? Do I have to have them? Am I going to lose any of the features? Are the drive modes going to work? We've seen even, I think in the last week, a couple of folks going to a competitor who tells them that half the modes aren't usable and things like that. I think the big thing that people need to understand is that when we are selling these 4 to 8 inch conversion kits for their Mustang, they are fully functioning. Nothing's going to change. Yes, you might end up with heated and cooled seat options that won't function, but it's a button sitting there. We do offer the buttonless clusters like you would find in a 301A Recaro model where there's still a cloth interior, but those are very, very hard to come by, and we have to charge more for those because we pay more for those. And as far as all the other functioning goes, you can get My Color in the Digital Dash if you do it at the same time. If you do the 4 to 8 inch or a Sync 3 upgrade the same time you do the Digital Dash, you can get the turn-by-turn directions through the certain apps, the FM stereo. Just kick in at any point if I'm missing any other option that people are going to get factory when comparing it to like a 19 or 20 Mustang. I don't think I am.
One little piece I wanted to add that I ran into last week. I had a customer who put a digital cluster in, And he said the audio controls wouldn't work and it wouldn't show the song title. And I had provided programming, so I'm like, that's very weird. I've never seen that problem. We're trying to troubleshoot, and he sent me a picture, and I realized he doesn't have a factory radio. He had some old Android radio this was like one of the first ones. And that was the problem. So just one thing to note is it's possible you won't have those features if you put in that Tesla-style screen or an Android radio of some kind or any aftermarket head unit. There's a good chance that those audio features in the cluster won't work. It's possible you won't even have volume control if they're older ones that weren't designed for the 2018 plus Mustangs.
That's an absolutely good point, because I will notate, and I'm guilty of it as well, when I'm talking to folks on the phone or through email or text message or one of the 4 billion ways to connect with us, I always make those comments in regards to assuming they have a factory OEM system, not the TomTop system, not the Phoenix radio Tesla-style screen, if they're still making them, or whoever it is. I'm making the assumption that you either have still the 4-inch radio, and for the folks that don't understand when we're talking about 4-inch radio, if you have what looks like the old phone number pad on the plastic bezel in the middle of your center console with your start button, a base model, that's what we consider a 4-inch screen, a base Sync 1 model. All of those assumptions and the information you find on the website are definitely derived around not having an aftermarket radio system. And lead time on those radios as well, while we're talking about those 4 to 8-inch radio systems, they are coming down. If I'm correct, we had talked a little bit earlier this week. It seems like it's coming down a little bit. 18s and 19s are shipping a little bit faster or something like that.
So around Black Friday, we had a lot of orders, and with how hard it is to get FCIMs, we had it at nearly 12 weeks, unfortunately. Now we are down to 4 to 5 for 15 through 18s. 19 and 20s are down to 1 to 2 weeks because they require, it's 1 to 2 or 2 to 3. I think it's 1 to 2. They require less parts. It says on the website. And GT350s are 2 to 3 weeks because they're a little different, use a different bezel. So,
and obviously
as long as I have bezels in stock, which I do right now. So
right, as long as we have bezels in stock, and that should be notated that we're talking on March 3rd, 2020. If you're listening to this in 2021 or in 6 months, the data will change. But it's always listed on the products on the website. You're always welcome to send an email to support at Hellhorse Performance, or send a text or a phone call to get real live up to date information. When it comes to availability and wait times and things of that nature, even trying to find Recaro clusters that don't exist. We did introduce a new product about a month ago. Your last trip down here, when we were doing a lot of testing and evaluation, Brian Luna down at Aces Performance. A lot of guys are going to know him from Mexico Racing League and his 18 and up. I think it's a 19 F-150 XL Sport. We have released, we should talk about that. Yeah, we have released a 4 to 8-inch conversion kit for the 18 and up F-150s that's available on the website. It's plug and play. I believe we've gotten a CarPlay harness to work, or we're in the process of getting that tested.
Yeah, so maybe working CarPlay harness.
We have working CarPlay harness then, and that's for the 18 and up F-150s. We haven't tried it on F-250 or F-350. I'm not sure what the difference there is going to be. Obviously, if you're listening to this and you want to guinea pig it or test it, we're open to it. But the other big thing that's coming out that we get a lot of questions about is the 15 to 17 F-150 radio kits. Where are we at in development with that? Maybe give everybody a little bit of an idea of where we're at with the 15 to 17 F-150 radio kits.
First, on the 18 plus kits, I've had several people ask me, why do you have to pay extra to have CarPlay? Which is something some competitors had done originally, and all they were doing was providing the USB hub. So with the 18 and up F-150s, they're very similar to the 19 and up Mustangs, to where you don't need all the parts. You don't need the fancy plug-and-play harness. You don't need a bunch of parts. But to do CarPlay, you still need a USB hub, which originally isn't provided. And you also need a special harness to power that USB hub, because Apple uses this special chip, or it requires a special USB chip. So to do the security communications through the phone, where Android doesn't require that. So that's why that extra part cost is there, because you are getting more parts. It's not just we're charging you to turn it on. It is physically more parts required to do that. Right. On the 15 through 17 kits, and this honestly is probably 13 through 17. There might be some changes for 15, but we'll start with 15 through 17. They're going to require the harness still and all that. Honestly, at this point, I just need a test vehicle. I think I have a good layout of what it's doing. It's similar to the Mustangs, different.
And I think we do have a test vehicle when you get down here next week to test on.
Cool.
I believe that we've got Matt Buckmaster, who originally was doing digital dash installs down here, getting parts through me or on his own, or played with it a little bit. He's going to let us use his truck as a guinea pig. I think we talked about that. But so folks can understand a little bit of pricing. I know you've got a little bit more information on this than I do, as we've talked about it back and forth. What do we expect the cost difference to be for 15 to 17 F-150 radio guys versus 18 and up? Are we talking $300-$400?
It'll be the same, most likely the same as the Mustang kits, $1,375 for the non-nav kit on the 15s or 17s.
Okay, and I think the big thing to notate, too, the difference is if you guys are going to order truck radios from us, at least for the time being, as far as I'm concerned, I believe you're concerned as well, Sam, folks need to take a picture of their center stack, their FCIM, so we can understand which buttons they have at the top. The VIN number doesn't always tell us that, and we want to make sure that with a multitude of different FCIMs and bezels that are available on the market for trucks, that they're getting the proper button. I don't believe we've discovered a way yet to decode that with the VIN. Am I correct?
I mean, I can make an educated guess, and I'm pretty sure most of them are the same, but it's just better safe than sorry.
Right. And so when you guys are sending that into your order, moving forward for about the last week, we've implemented a ticketing system that every new order generates a sales ticket. You guys can send pictures to that. You guys can send questions pre-purchase to support@hellhorseperformance.com. Again, text, email, hit us on Facebook. Although I will tell you that social media is not a great way of always reaching out, as things seem to flood there quite a bit when there's a popular post. If I'm putting something up about Gavin and it's just a 6, I'll get hundreds and hundreds of Instagram messages. The best way really is to submit a inquiry through the website or support@hellhorseperformance.com, or simply give us a call. But that is a big thing that we've changed too, that we can talk about for a quick second, is the ticketing system is now going to be the end-all be-all way to get your information. If you guys are looking for order status updates, looking for information about ordering a product, anything like that, and you don't want to talk on the phone, the best thing to do is reply to your order ticket or send in the email and generate a ticket, and we can keep in communication and make sure that everybody's getting proper things responded to them with information and order updates and tracking numbers and things of that nature. Much like I think I just shipped out 22 or 23 pairs of Euro-style taillights, and I got to say the ticketing system is a great feature for them, because a few of them that didn't get tracking have been able to reach out and say, hey, what's tracking for this? And we don't have to dig around. It's all within the order and ticketing system. Yeah, I love this system,
honestly, because it makes it so much faster to reply to people and know what they're talking about without, because sometimes people forget to put information in that you need, and it's just easier to. You already have that.
Well, it's a great way to stay on top of stuff, too. I tell folks all the time, if you call me at 9 o'clock in the morning and I answer, and I'm out running to pick up a car, or running to pick up parts, or running down to Ford distribution to pick up manifolds to take to porting, or whatever it might be, by the time I get back to my desk chair at 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon, I've probably gotten 60 or 70 other phone calls on top of emails and text messages, and human nature kicks in, and sometimes it's not top of the mind. I'll take screenshots of phone numbers, but I don't know if the number's tied to, because it doesn't tie to their order. So I definitely agree with you that the ticketing system is a huge improvement for trying to streamline everything around here. A lot of the other big questions we get when it comes to this stuff is, what can we do for Super Duty radios and Super Duty digital dashes? And one thing we haven't really talked about at all is we actually offer digital dash kits for F-Series trucks. I think that's an unknown thing that we do as well. It's not the same as the Mustang. Need to caveat that. But what you would see in a Platinum or a Limited or the high-end Lariats, I believe, with they call it the 8-inch center stack, where your TAC and speedo are still analog, but everything else is digital. And we can customize that fully with them as well through Forescan on their own, or I don't know if we can pre-program it. You can answer that by putting the 4-gauge pack text gauges above of the 4 gauges. And even the guys that have these F-150s like Brian Luna that are twin turboed, being able to turn on the turbo gauge, we did that for him to where they can get a general boost reading on the gauge. Any thoughts or things to add on that? I mean, that's not really something we offer to people on the regular. It's not really something I mention in social media either.
The reason it's not mentioned much is because there's a good amount of competition in that field, and one of the main competitors, who's the guy who honestly pioneered that swap, sells used clusters, and he sells them very inexpensively, and so most people go to him. And we only have dealt with new clusters. We haven't tried to do used cluster with this. We're plenty busy with the other cluster thing, and it might be something we look into in the future to try to lower that price and be competitive. We definitely beat the other people selling them new. Infotainment's $300 more than we are, so it's just a product that hopefully will flourish a little bit as time goes on. It's one of those slow starters based on trying to figure out how to do it right.
Correct. And then trying to get clusters that we know are going to, A, have a warranty, B, if they are refurbished and not brand new, are going to come with a solid warranty that just isn't picking them up off the side of the road in a sense and throwing them in people's car and hoping for the best. It's one of the big things that we definitely pride ourselves on around here is trying to do the right thing the first time. I don't want to have to deal with a whole lot of warranty claims. I know you don't. It's not good for the brand. It's not great customer service to have to do a whole lot of back and forth with warranty products. We ran into that with clusters a little bit, and we took care of that as well. I guess on a turning point, we can talk about some of the other stuff we do around here. We've got in-house turbo.
Before you go into the turbo kits, let me just mention one more sync-related thing.
Go for it.
So trucks in general, Super Duties, F-150s, any other Ford vehicle, if it came with Sync 2, we can put Sync 3 in it. The price is usually similar to the Mustangs. Some are a little bit more expensive. Some might require drilling holes in your brackets or a more expensive screen. But we can, if it came with Sync 2, we can put Sync 3 in it. It's fairly easy and fairly inexpensive.
Are we talking everything 15 and up, F-150, F-250, F-350, or what are we talking about there, Sam?
13 and up.
13 and up.
11 and 12 Edge and Explorer too. Those and 12 Focus, 2012 Focuses. ST is included. If you have Sync 2 in it, we can put Sync 3. Actually, the 2012 Focus, we can do it for the same price as we do it for the Mustangs. It's a very inexpensive kit. So, right. 20 Focus.
And the best way to get in touch with us about doing that is send a contact form through the website. Give us a call. Not everything's going to be listed on the Hellhorse Performance website. At some point it will be. We've got the side note that isn't even public yet is we do have the Sync upgrade website that we've purchased as an offspring to be able to host all of this stuff at. For all the solutions. But if you don't see a solution on the website that you're interested in, be sure to reach out. More than likely, we've done it or can do it, and we can get you a proper price for what that would be as well. And that was a great point to bring up, Sam. We do get asked a lot. I get a lot of guys with F-250s and F-350s that are like, hey, can we upgrade this? I'd like to get the newer maps or things like that.
Super Duties can absolutely get Sync 3, or they can get newer Sync 3 in it, but you will have to drill holes in the brackets to modify it to get the low price we can offer. But honestly, it's really easy. I have pictures. It's not a big deal at all. Some people think it's a huge deal, and then I'm like, just trust me, it's not a big deal. Here's how you do it. They do it, and they're like, you're right. It didn't even matter. It was like, it didn't have to be perfect. So.
And when we're talking about drilling holes in the bracket, we're not talking about drilling holes into your actual car or your dash or the rib cage system of your dash. We're literally talking about the metal brackets that are included with the kits. We're not asking to take a Dremel to your dash. We are asking you to take a Dremel to your dash with a 15 to 17 digital dash and the instructions. That should be made clear.
First time I did that, because I'm like, I really hope this thing works, just cutting a hole. So you can't
cutting up the dash.
And it's really not a big deal. And your whole cluster will mount perfectly back in there. You're just missing a piece of plastic under it.
Just missing a piece of plastic. Just don't cut through to your AC vents. That's always the big warning. Don't cut through to your AC vents.
I have to say, yes, don't cut through your AC vents if you want to go on to the fun big power things.
Yeah, so that's one of the great things is Hellhorse is now offering our own twin turbo kit. We've made a bunch of power with them with Turbo Smart Gates. We offer Comp 64, 67 turbos with it, coolant cooled or air cooled. We'll have to do a whole podcast on turbos. I'd like to get Ernie or Daniel from Comp on the line to talk about differences between water cooled and air cooled outside of the obvious of just air and water cooled, but how that air cooled's working, how it's held up. Things of that nature. It'd be great to cover that in a future podcast. We're doing all the Whipple stuff now. We have done the Whipple stuff, but Whipple stuff is now found on the website. You actually have a Whipple S550 that you autocross, correct?
I don't autocross. I actually do road racing. I go on full big boy tracks. I've never really been a fan of autocross.
All I know is you've wrecked it twice, and I just picture you drifting in circles at autocross and wrecking into telephone poles, buddy.
And I'm sorry, wrecking an autocross would be really sad. One was a deer. To put that out there, that was. I'll post the video somewhere. I think I've shown you the video, but that I had no chance to react on. Yeah, it's been totaled twice. A 16 GT. Premium 401A. It had all the bells and whistles except adaptive cruise. I got it with 3,000 miles used actually in early 2017. Totaled it with a deer, bought it back from insurance and fixed it myself. Put a carbon fiber roof on it because it needed a new roof. And then slowly over time have done a bunch of stuff to it. And then I wrecked it again when I went backwards into a tire wall off track. And
I remember that. That's when the carbon fiber was on back order forever.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's always on back order forever. We'll just say that was off track, actually, because I did make it did get again.
Yeah.
But anyways, totaled twice, fixed twice, drives great. Actually, it has always driven great. Even after both wrecks, it still drove fine. Though after the deer, didn't have any coolant, so didn't want to drive it very far. But yeah, now then I put a Whipple. It's a Gen 2 head unit I bought used off Buddy in California, and then did a new Stage 2 kit on there. And it's on the Palm Beach dyno tune. It makes about a 746 wheel or something like that. And then I actually put a larger pulley on and did a different tune for the track, not drag strip, road course. And it's only about 680, but I wanted a safer, lower power tune for the track. 750 is just a handful.
Well, you're in it all the time. It's like I tell road course guys all the time. When you're in the throttle the whole time, you need something that's not going to have pre-dead issues and things like that. But that's definitely a topic we should cover on one of these episodes coming up. Is boost between Whipple and turbo kits, things like that, and talk about the differences and what people should expect or what's a good fit for them. The way I approach it when customers call in is like, hey, what are you actually going to do with the car? I know what you're hyped up on, but what are we actually going to do with the car? Set aside the budget, but what's the actual goal of the car?
That would be a good whole episode, because I will say I would not recommend a PD blower like a Whipple for a road course guy, because it definitely surges into boost. And it's actually, I kind of have been tempted to go with a Hellhorse twin turbo kit to replace it, so I can have a lot of fine boost control. But that's a topic for another day.
It is a topic for another day. But on that note, I do know a guy that sells Hellhorse twin turbo kits. I can definitely get you in touch with them.
Deal too, right?
Yeah. Before we start drifting into like episode 2 and 3 or 4 or 27 of this on the installments of supercharged and turboed, we wanted to cover an introduction of what people are going to be able to expect from these podcasts. We've covered a lot about digital dashes and radios in this initial one, which I think is a great topic to start with because we get so many questions and that's such a hot product. And we'll move forward with, boost and turbo kits and things like that in the future. But in closing, are we looking for anything? And my brain is kind of in a foggy mist at the moment. Are we looking for anything that folks could reach out if they have a vehicle of a certain type that we want to test anything on? Or are we looking for any sort of test vehicles? Not saying free product vehicles, but people that might be in the Houston marketplace or up by you that we need to guinea pig a product on to see if it works.
And I'm in St. Louis, Missouri, for anybody who doesn't know that. That's where all the sync stuff, the cluster stuff ships. I have a guy here, a buddy of mine, who does a lot of that programming work for me. He's awesome, does a great job. But really, I want to just do one thing at a time. We're so busy, so that 15 through 17 F-150, we'll start there. Once that's working, we'll go like towards 13, 14s. We'll go Super Duties. And then we could even expand to other Ford vehicles. I don't know if I've told you this. I actually have a kit that works for Focuses. I had a Focus ST friend who wanted me to put a Sync 3 radio in her base Focus ST1. And she She just get it done. I don't really care how you do it. So some trial and error, and I have that worked out too. So that's about the same price as the Mustang kit. I just really haven't advertised that either because the harness is a little more involved. It does require some repinning by the person who buys the kit, and some people aren't comfortable with that. So, but right now,
I guess that's one thing. I didn't mean to dump in on there. I think that's one thing that we didn't cover about the harness that comes with our 4 to 8 inch kit earlier is that it's truly plug and play. It keeps your reverse camera. You keep all the OEM features. There are some harnesses out there. Again, we won't mention anybody that my understanding is unless they've changed it, certain functionality won't work or requires additional harnesses.
Right. Yeah. You don't have to buy an extra reverse camera harness like some of the Chinese-made ones.
Right, and that is one big thing that when we're talking about R&D is we're trying to get that same OEM feel and quality into the harnesses. I mean, that's a good thing to segue in there is that we don't want you to have to do a whole bunch of extra wiring. We don't want you to have to give up your reverse parking sensors beeping just to be able to upgrade. Because like now, I don't know if a lot of people know this, 2020 Mustangs, even base models, come with reverse parking sensors standard.
20 actually.
Oh, 18 up. Yeah. I guess the first time I had interactions with it was in this 2020 that we just twin turboed. But yeah, future episodes, we can dig deeper into that and the electronic side and other things they can modify. We'll cover boost and turbo kits. We can talk about your Whipple and road course in it versus drag racing, the tuning process. It'd be great to get Rob Shoemaker on here to talk about some stuff. Ernie from Fuel Injector Clinic, who's our go-to fuel injector company. And, even Gavin and Alex and Jack from YouTube to see what's going on with their builds and things like that. But a big thing to put out is if people want to interact or ask questions for us to answer at the end of these segments for like Q&A and things like that, the best way to do that is reach out on social media or send an email. And we'll be sure to answer your questions. I would love to compile a list of questions. I'm sure when I put this podcast listed as live on Instagram, I'll be sure to mention, drop your questions below that they'd like to have answered so we can spend a little bit of time answering people's questions. Other than that, do you have anything else to add, Sam, or are we kind of done with this introduction podcast to who we are and talking about radio kits and dashes?
There's hours of stuff to talk about, but for number one, I think we've covered the basics.
So for all of you out there listening, we appreciate it. Tune in to future episodes. Share it with your friends. This is a great way to catch us. Best way to get a hold of us is through the website at hellhorseperformance.com. There's a contact page. You can send an email to support@hellhorseperformance.com. You can always send or shoot us a phone call or text message to 832-791